Hello everyone, Charcoal here, and welcome to another discussion video. Today we're continuing my Wings of Fire Arc 1 review series, where I work my way through the first 5 books of the series for the first time in almost a decade and give my thoughts on them, all leading up to a big video where I take every book in the main canon and rank them all. Next up is Book 4, The Dark Secret. This is a pretty big one. We've got some huge plot points about to collide here. The Nightwing's secret home has just been revealed, Glory's taken the Rainwing throne and started mobilizing them to rescue their prisoners, and Starflight has been kidnapped and is about to meet the false Dragonets of Destiny. Will this book live up to expectations? Let's find out. The prologue here is about Reed and the rest of Clay's siblings and their struggles with the ongoing war. Maybe I'm just biased for Reed, but I think this scene is pretty well written. It's very emotional, it really captures that feeling of the chaos and war, and I like the little characterization we get with how far Reed is willing to go to defend his siblings. On its own, this is a very good scene, but I do have to question its placement in the greater story. Why exactly is this scene here? I feel like a prologue should set up future events, lay the groundwork for something that'll come back later, but that's not really the case here. The Sibs don't do anything for the rest of this arc. A few of them reappear in book 6, so maybe Tui chose now of all times to remind the reader they exist. If anything, it feels like a subtle hint to the looming Mudwing-Icewing clash in the next book, but you can't tell me you remembered this prologue anymore by the time that detail came up again. But anyway, let's get to the book proper. So, Starflight has been kidnapped and taken to the Nightwing Island because Clay decided to chase after a boar and leave Starflight to guard the extremely dangerous magic tunnel by himself. Congratulations, Clay, you're the rock of this team and I respect that, but unfortunately you're also as smart as one. But anyway, this section is frustratingly boring. Moroseer just drags Starflight around and shows him stuff. Starflight asks questions, Moroseer tells him to shut up, rinse and repeat for 60 pages. The council meeting scene was alright, it sets up Princess Greatness in the mystery with Queen Battlewinter, but that's about it. But what's that? You want to get more into the mystery or finally meet the alternate Dragonets? Nope, now we're gonna learn how Nightwings hunt. That's neat and all, but why did we need to spend time on this? Starflight's father, Mastermind, is pretty entertaining though, if only for his sheer charisma. He may be an awful person, but having a character just be energetic and passionate about their work is usually a good way to at least make them pleasant to read about. Moroseer, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. Starflight keeps asking all the questions the audience wants to know, but having Moroseer constantly act bored and brush him off just gets irritating after the 4th or 5th time. Starflight meets Fate Speaker here too, but she just comes off as an idiot. I can see why the other alternates get annoyed with her. Let's move on. The meandering continues for a bit as Starflight finally meets all the alternate Dragonets, and I can't say I'm really a fan of any of them here. Flame does stuff much later on in the series, but in this book he joins the others in being about as complex as printer paper. Flame and Viper are just jerks, Ochre is constantly hungry, Squid is always finding something to whine about, and Fatespeaker is just Kinkaju's blind optimism but somehow even more oblivious. We reach the 100-page mark, over a third of the book, and things finally pick up when Starflight conveniently finds a dream visitor and attempts to use it to contact his friends, but all that he gets out of it is learning that they don't really trust him anymore. Hey man, at least you tried. Credit where credit is due though, it's a good scene. The emotional punch is there, it really emphasizes how dire Starflight's situation is, and it's the first time in this entire book Starflight actually does something on his own. Before we continue, I need to address the typical elephant in the room, the romantic subplot. Or should I say subplots, plural. Starflight is crushing on both Sunny and Fatespeaker. I don't really like Fatespeaker, so having her be involved is just annoying, and the Dragonets of Destiny grew up together. They're more like siblings than anything, so him liking Sunny just feels weird, and I'm glad Sunny explains that to him at the end. And neither of these ships add anything to the story. There's really nothing I can say about these that I haven't already said about a bunch of other Wings of Fire ships, so let's get back to the plot. Because things are actually moving at long last. The last few scenes of this section pretty much set up the big finale. Squid leaves, Queen Battlewinter is introduced, which is a very well done and menacing scene. Starflight finally contacts Glory and tells her what's going on. Viper dies, and the Nightwings plan to attack the rainforest that night. I don't miss Squid or Viper. All the alternate Dragonets have been nothing but unlikable, so I feel no sympathy. I feel like it was just done to declutter the cast a bit since the real Dragonets are about to get involved again. So by the end of part 2, the story finally feels like it's going somewhere, but I still think most of the scenes in it are pretty dull and don't do much to serve the story. Let's see if part 3 is the grand finale we've been looking forward to. Finally! The action we've been missing this whole time. Starflight is finally showing growth, the volcano was exploding, they gotta save everyone, and it fell apart. Let's slow down a bit. I actually love a good chunk of this section. Starflight's plan to escape back to the rainforest was pretty clever and a good character moment for him. Seeing him reunite with his friends also felt really good, although I really wish he had come up with the idea to use sleeping darts instead of Sunny. It's Starflight's book, let him do stuff. Thankfully he does get to do stuff by taking the lead during the rescue operation, and that whole scene is really fun and exciting. The tension is there, Starflight finally gets to be cool, it's great. And the scramble to get everyone out and escape the eruption later is a really fun sequence too. But then we get to the confrontation with Queen Battlewinter. I'm not against the Nightwings living in the rainforest, that makes sense. But I am against the idea of Glory being their queen. Glory isn't even an adult yet, and she just became queen of the Rainwings less than a week ago. Does she really need a whole other tribe handed to her on a silver platter? And Greatness is a very boring character. I still maintain she should have stood up to her mother and decided to lead the tribe herself. Having her be such a weak character just feels like a lazy excuse to give the Nightwings to Glory because their old queen won't make it and their only heir doesn't want the job. In the final moments, we get the reveal that the whole Dragonet prophecy was made up, which was a shocking reveal at the time this came out, but in hindsight it was pretty obvious. Come on, why else would Morosier be so willing to meddle in the prophecy he supposedly delivered? And as the volcano explodes and Morosier is engulfed in lava, Starflight makes the mistake of looking back at him, causing him to take some fire to the face and get permanently blinded. I genuinely hate this, and we'll come back to that in a minute. The epilogue just shows the three Sandwing princesses talking about killing the Dragonets of Destiny, a small reminder of everything at stake before we head into the finale of the arc. Not much here, but with that, we've reached the end. Oh boy, where do I start? Let's talk about Starflight. I like Starflight. I see a lot of myself in him. On his own, he might even be my favorite Dragonet of Destiny. But being relatable doesn't mean he's an interesting protagonist because this book did him so dirty. He has no agency in the plot for most of it. He just sits there awkwardly and gets dragged around while the story happens around him. And when he finally does step up and do something, his reward for character growth is going blind. Seriously? A character getting a permanent life-changing injury can work, but it's usually done in one of two ways. It's a tragic event at the start that the character has to work through throughout the story, or it's a result of a noble self-sacrifice at the end to signify character development. It feels like it's supposed to be the latter, but Starflight doesn't get injured because his friends would have died otherwise. He gets injured because he glanced back at his dying enemy. If he hadn't done that, everyone would still be safe and he'd keep his eyes. Congrats on your development, Starflight. Now you're gonna be blinded and that'll never be important again. Overall, the Dark Secret just feels lazy. There was so much set up in the previous books that came together here, but it amounted to nothing. Starflight barely does anything. The false Dragonets of Destiny don't do anything important and barely interact with the real ones outside of Starflight, and the whole Nightwing tribe is just handed to Glory on the thinnest excuse possible when the opportunity to make Greatness an actually interesting character is right there. The first 2/3 of the book are just a slog to get through, with barely anything happening until the last section. That last third is where all of the action is, and it's pretty turbulent. There's a lot that I really like and a lot that I really don't. It's not that bad. I did generally enjoy reading it, and I attribute that to Tui's writing style and how much I relate to Starflight, despite how ineffective he is as a protagonist. But I definitely don't see a reason to revisit this thing again. I'm gonna give book 4 a 4.5 out of 10. This arc has been quite a roller coaster so far, going from good to boring to really good to really boring. The question now is, will book 5 bring this arc to a satisfying conclusion? The answer to that will have to wait until next time. Before I finish up, I want to apologize for this video taking so long when it should have been out back in April. Life got pretty hectic around and after finals, but after a much needed break, I'm back for the summer. Anyway, time for the featured fan art. Today we have pieces from Sadness Factory, Moss, The Liquid Cat Loaf, Munchkinu, and Dragon Scribbles. Thanks a bunch, guys. This has been Wings of Charcoal, and I will see you all in the next video.